Hi, this is Tony Hall. I'm in Tarragona, Spain, Tarragona, Spain, with Jonathan Robusky in his home. And we're going to hang out for a few days. And these are early moments of, I've come a long way from Calgary, Alberta to be here. It's my first time meeting Jonathan in person. And here we are. And what a time we're living through. And we have been discussing things, with such fervor on the internet that here we are sitting together. And all the things that are going on, we're looking at the excommunication of these 59 people by the European Union. Jacques Bode is one, and it's such a extreme, unprecedented kind of situation to unpeople, to take away the acknowledgement that people have certain inherent rights. And so we talked about words. Narrative imperative also has come up. Excommunication and narrative imperative. Do you want to talk about these ideas that you've been
Well,
throwing
the,
out?
the idea that has been beating around in my head, and well, actually, just some minutes ago, we were in some we were in some disagreement about the use of the F word, of dropping the F bomb. But of course, the
And they
F
have,
word in question is not what you might think it is. It's fascism. It really seems that there's a gradual slide towards fascism in the EU and the West generally. I'm sure but it's not. It's like you remember the commercial. This isn't your father's Lincoln, is it? Some car, and this isn't your father's or your great grandpa's fascism. This is something kind of new. So the question was whether how useful it is to even use the F word because it's something quite different from the original, uh, fascism of the 1930s, let's say. But though there is, come to think of it, some kind of connection because you actually look at some of these European leaders and and the situation in Ukraine, there actually is a connection with fascism 1.0, like these Banderites in Ukraine. I mean, it's a difficult question.
well, and it sort of impoverishes the discussion that everything comes down to Hitler. If you want to say anything bad about a
Yeah,
person, you
Godwin's
just
law.
you just invoke the word Hitler, and everybody knows that that's a very naughty subject, and it's so terrible that you can't go into detail about it. Actually, fascism was first connected to Mussolini in Italy, and it was kind of a very sort of thoughtful process, and came up with definitions, and it had to do with the connection between the government sector and the corporate sector. It was sometimes called corporatism. But then along comes Hitler, and they have like lawyers that think through justifications for putting people in camps, maybe taking their life in some
Yeah,
case.
Carl Schmidt
But
and
this being done by the European Union is sort of beyond that. It's kind of like ad hoc excommunication, sort of spontaneous. We'll just do whatever we can get away with in terms of canceling people's access to money, to the ability to travel, to the ability to have a job, to the ability to get on the internet and communicate. Just take away every aspect of their human rights. So it's sort of the opposite of inalienable human rights. It's kind of like everything is now alienable, and being a human is, you know, a gateway. It presents an opportunity for new
yeah.
levels of dehumanizing
Well,
people.
I think the use of the dreaded F word and and mentioning the dreaded hair H is I mean it presents these pitfalls that one has to avoid. That's for sure. I mean, these people who are, I think there's what, 59 of them now on the EU sanctions list. Um, you
And the,
know, the
and there'll soon be a few hundred, and then
you
there'll
would
soon be a
think.
few thousand, unless if it's just like now and it's sort of ho hum, a lot of bad stuff is
Well, there,
going on, and this is just one of a number of stories about how people are being abused, and economically and politically. I mean, this is sort of in a class of its own. You have to have some historical understanding to see
well,
how unprecedented this really is.
most of well, it's also, I believe, I'd have to look at this again. I think actually the majority of the 50 odd people are might be Russians living in Russia, or they're foreigners living in Russia. So that it's actually still just a relative handful of people. Like there's Jacques Beau. He got onto the sanctions list. Jacques Beau is a retired Swiss colonel. So you wouldn't think that kind of retired army officer is even such an anti-establishment or left-wing sort of guy naturally, but they stuck him on the sanctions list in mid-December, but because based on the claim that he was a Russian propagandist, which is dubious,
Well, that claim is universal among the 59.
but Jacques Beau resides in Brussels. I mean, so he and some of the other, like the other person we were looking at is this dual dual nationality, originally African woman, Nathalie Yam, who's a dual citizen of I believe Cameroon and Switzerland. But I guess she's mostly a resident of Switzerland, so she's a resident of the West. I mean, the number of the 59 who are actually residents of the West. There's another German Turkish guy who, well, who is also has been on the sanctions list for a number of months, and but these people are citizens of Western countries.
And they're all accused of being too friendly with Russia and too prone to give Russian propaganda the sort of filth of Russian thought. Like this is, beneath this drive to dehumanize these people is to go to war with Russia and this Western European group that are just
Well, one of the
longing to beat Putin and break up Russia and everything. They're obviously preparing for a long war, and this is this group just to think well of them, or even neutrality about Russia, is sort of
Well,
starts as a
there's a
crime.
whole set of what I call nymphs, and that's my new term that I came up with, some months ago in my own mind. Nymph is a narrative imperative. And of course, there are all these narrative imperatives around Russia now about how evil the Russians are, and of course, not respecting the narrative imperative is it's equivalent. Well, it's a new way of framing the whole age old question of heresy and the limits of acceptable discourse. Well, uh, these are topics that need to be. You see, what this is, in a sense, is the very first heresy central summit, consisting of two people, me and Tony at the moment. And we're here in Tarragona, Spain, and so we're having some exploratory conversation about this whole brave new world that is taking form.
And Orwell was kind of not very creative compared to what they're coming up
Well,
with. Like
Brave New World is Aldous Huxley, but never
yeah.
mind that. Anyway, so that's what you have to look forward to, and by staying tuned. And meanwhile, we are going to dinner. Okay, so